So after reviewing Moulin Rouge last week as one of my wife's picks, I felt it necessary that I need to regain my testosterone. What film better to do that than Mad Max Fury Road? Oh, what a film! What a lovely film! So, I am a huge Mad Max fan, and the last film in this series that came out was 30 years ago. These three films were directed by George Miller, who has come back to direct this iteration, the fourth one, Mad Max Fury Road. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Mad Max movies, because it's been 30 years since we've had the last one, Mad Max was the series that basically created the whole idea of a post-apocalyptic world. You know, society has completely crumbled, and now just everybody is trying to survive. And Max is always like the lone wanderer in the desert. And he's always a character that I very much have been drawn to. However, in all of the Mad Max movies, he's never really the main character. He's more the silent observer in these movies. The world is usually more like the main character of these films. So, what is the story of this one? Well, Max is helping to escort a bunch of women who have escaped as they were slaves or wives being held by Immortan Joe, who's the leader of this faction, and they view him as almost a religious figure. They've decided they've had enough of him, and Imperator Furiosa, played by Charlize Theron, is getting them out of there. And along the way, they run into Max, played by Tom Hardy, and he sort of gets caught up in the middle. So, right away, I want to begin with, this movie's insane, okay? It is out of its mind. But the way that George Miller sets up this movie, you go along with it. And it's a movie, and the Mad Max series has always been, you're either in for the ride, or you're not in for the ride. And if you're in for the ride, hang on, because we're going to have fun. So yeah, this movie is incredibly insane, and like the more that you see about what this world is like, you know, the more that you just kind of go along with what they're going to throw at you. And the action of this movie is incredible. George Miller uses very little CGI. He, of course, used some. He used it when it was necessary. But he used no green screen. They really went out into the desert and filmed this movie, you know, and that is something that, as somebody who has been waterboarded with Transformers and Pirates and the Star Wars prequels where everybody is basically just standing in front of a green screen, having them really out there in the desert and filming this with practical effects is something that I appreciated so much. And the practical effects, oh my heck, you have these incredible chase scenes, and when you see a car and a person exploding, that's really an explosion, and those cars are really blowing up. I'm sure the people weren't, but but no, there was no CGI explosions. They really blew this stuff up. When you see stuntmen jumping from car to car, or you see Max and one of the war boys fighting on top of a truck, they're really doing that, you know, and there's this incredible sequence where they have these guys on these poles, and these poles are swaying back and forth, and you have Max and this bad guy fighting on these poles as they're swaying on the back of these trucks that are doing like 50 miles an hour. They're really doing that, and that was just incredible to watch, you know. There was none of this whole, oh, that looks so fake. No, it was real because it was really happening. And that was just something that just added so much to this. And I felt that this was an action movie that we needed desperately, because they have gotten so dependent on CGI and green screen that it was great to see an old school director come back and basically look at Michael Bay and, you know, look at all of the Transformer movie directors and the G.I. Joe directors and say, this is how you shoot an action film. Honestly, I would have been happy if this movie ended with George Miller just dropping the mic and walking out. That would have been amazing. So I want to talk about some of the characters in this movie. First up, Charlize Theron as Imperator Furiosa. Okay, Charlize Theron in this movie is incredible. Okay, she is a very strong character. She's not a strong female character. She is just a strong character. She's probably my favorite new character introduced in a movie within the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years. She was amazing. You knew that she was capable. She doesn't need saving. And there's no forced romance between her and Max, which is something I, again, very much appreciated, that they don't need to be in love with each other. These were two characters who learned to trust each other and kind of realized we kind of need to depend on each other in order to accomplish this mission. And that's really it. There's a sense of respect between the two and really nothing more. And Charlize Theron was amazing because she is able to convey so much as Furiosa with a glance. She has these glances that they'll show her giving, and she is telling you so much about her character in a 3-second glance. Okay, and I know if you haven't seen the movie, that sounds weird. Like, how can character development and growth come from a 3-second shot of a look she's giving? When you see it, you'll know what I mean, because she conveys so much about her character. And one of the things that I loved, going back to the whole visual effects thing, it wasn't until almost the end of the movie that I remembered that Furiosa only has one arm. Okay, there it is. Her, I want to say it's her left arm is completely gone, and she has this like robotic arm there, but you do see shots where she's not wearing it and she just has this little stuff. I saw the making of it, okay, and I guess if you want to count this as green screen, they had her arm painted green so that someone could just go in and digitally take it out. That is one of the examples where CGI was used, and it was used very appropriately. But she is a strong character with a robot arm who can kick ass and take names and doesn't need saving, okay? That is an awesome character. The whole idea that her character, the controversy surrounding this, with its feminist propaganda, and they completely demasculated, whatever the word is, Mad Max, is complete garbage, okay? To the people who are out there saying that this movie was feminist propaganda, all I can say is just shut up, okay? Go away, because this movie was so good to these two characters. There were things that she could do better than Max. There were things that Max could do that was better, that he could do better than her. And together, these two make a very, very good team. And the fact that she could do things that he couldn't, well, yeah. And it made sense with her character. So I want to go into Max now. So this is the first time that we've ever seen Mad Max portrayed by a different actor, and in this case, Tom Hardy took on this role. Mel Gibson, this was the part that made Mel Gibson, that made his career. We all know about the recent scandal and the controversy surrounding him, but I am going to go on record to say he is still my favorite Max. When I watch those movies, I still love Mel Gibson. Maybe not as a person, but as a performer, I love him as Max. That being said, Tom Hardy did a really, really good job as the new actor to take on this role. Granted, there's not a lot for him to have to say. And a lot of people who may say, oh, Max doesn't say a lot in this movies, go back to the other movies. Max has always been a quiet character. The thing that I've read is that Max has, I think it's about 16 lines in The Road Warrior. In that entire movie, he's the main character. He has 16 lines. In this movie, for the first 20 or 30 minutes, you just hear him grunting. What up? What up? And I saw an interview with Tom Hardy, and he said that he kind of played it as Max has been alone for so long that he still doesn't even know he's forgotten his own voice. That he'll talk like to himself through his thoughts, but that he hasn't spoken out loud in years. And I thought that was fascinating. And so to see him, at the beginning of the movie, water, give me water. And then to the end where he's talking to Imperator Furiosa, that was great to watch, and it made the character new and fresh. Again, prefer Gibson, but Tom Hardy, you did great. You did really good, and I hope that we see a sequel to this movie. I really want Tom Hardy back. He is the new Max as far as I'm concerned. I welcome him, and I'd love to see where he could take this role. Now, if you're new to Mad Max and you've never seen one before, first off, please go back and see Mad Max The Road Warrior and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. They are an amazing series. I love them so much. I remember, too, when I was a kid, next to a Ford Mustang, my dream car was always a Ford Falcon because that's what the V8 Interceptor is, because the Mad Max movie just makes that car just look so cool. And when you watch this movie, I'm afraid that people who haven't seen the movie before are going to watch this and say, oh, this is a ripoff of a video game, or this is a ripoff of a movie that I've already seen. The thing you need to understand is that the Mad Max series has inspired so many movies, video games, comic books, and even pro wrestling has taken inspiration from the Mad Max series. So I highly, highly recommend for you to go and check them out. If you want me to review the older ones, I'd be happy to do it. Leave a comment below. Tell me if you'd like to see that. I would love to do it. But without further ado, it's time to rate this bad boy. And in case you didn't notice, I'm going to give Mad Max Fury Road an A+. Again, George Miller is a rock star in my opinion. The man can now do no wrong. He is the anti-Lucas. He is the anti-Michael Bay. He is the guy who came in and said, I'm going to show you how to make a compelling, riveting, and awesome action movie, and I'm going to use practical effects. So definitely check it out. Keep watching the channel because later this month, with it being October, I'm going to be reviewing some scary movies. So again, if there's a scary movie you'd like to see me review, leave a comment below and tell me what you'd like me to review. So this is the Fanboy, and I'll see you next time.